All right, trade pros, welcome. This is all right, trade pros, welcome to today's futures afternoon update. Just a little bit of technical difficulties here with YouTube on the desktop format, so I'm just gonna have to hold the camera up here and improvise. Just gonna do a quick read over of the economic releases that came in after the morning update. That's pretty much all I can give you guys so far, unless I flip the camera over and walk through the charts manually here. So apologize for that. YouTube's giving us a little bit of issues getting going, and we'll have to figure that out for tomorrow. But for today's session here, what we had was the US session. Georgie covered any of the drivers that came in overnight. So on the US session, a couple of things came through. We had Secretary of State Pompeo mentioning that he sees a real risk related to China and Huawei with regards to national security. So talking up the US's recent, well, they put a hold on it for 90 days, but you saw some of those, not sanctions, but some of the restrictions coming in with regards to Huawei, chip makers, etc. A lot of the US companies, Google was one of the big ones that stopped providing support to their services, such as the Google Play Store, a bunch of the Google background apps that work on Android, that make Android run. Huawei is no longer going to have access to those. So that's on the China-US trade war front. As far as economic releases are concerned, we had the jobless claims, initial jobless claims come in at 211,000 versus 215 expected. And we had continuing claims increase 1.68 million from 1.67 million expected. We also had the May preliminary market manufacturing PMI numbers. Those came in at 50.6 versus 52.7 expected. That is the lowest reading since September of 2009. We also had April new home sales come out 673,000 versus 675,000 expected. And weekly EIA natural gas inventories came in at plus 100 billion cubic feet versus plus 103 to plus 105 indicated range. So that's all that we've got in the US session so far. Nothing really planned for the remainder of the session as far as economic releases are concerned. So it will be a good idea to have a squawk handy, and we like to trade the new squawk here on our team to keep us up to date with any headline news. So with that being said, let me see if I can switch this camera over to my output. There we go. All right, so that's not half bad. So let's cover the quote board first here, and let me get my mouse out. It's gonna be quite difficult to do. Can I zoom out? Not really. All right, guys, you guys are just gonna have to bear with me here. So there's our quote board. We are seeing ES futures right up top, traded right on average around 1.17 million on the session so far. Change percentage down almost 2%, 1.56% on there from the previous day close. So you're seeing SPUs are quite bearish on the session, and you're seeing crude oil here, pretty nice volume as well, 817,000. So more than average volume here, and crude oil has just been the story of the day, minus 5.29% from its previous day close. So big spillout on crude. We were mentioning last week into the end of the week that the dollar, crude oil, and S&P 500 all rallying in tandem was not a regular correlation. Generally what happens is as the dollar strengthens, that tends to weigh on the stock market, S&P 500, and on crude oil. And we were mentioning that something's got to give, and it looks like crude is the market that has given in. We've seen crude drop around 5% over the last two sessions. And seeing this tumble kind of gets us that recorrelation. We're seeing SPUs as well kind of rolling over as the dollar is climbing higher. So looks like these markets are starting to recorrelate. Crude and S&P 500 showing some weakness on the back of this dollar strength. So good volume in both of these markets. Obviously, direction is down so far in the session. We kept our team on the right side today. We opened up around S3s and we were saying, maybe one or two more short opportunities will be available, but we forecast kind of a buy stop release. And we mentioned the location for that to be the VWAP on the SPOOs. And we'll go into that in a second once we look at the chart. So that's all that we got on the quote board. Higher than average volume on, not higher than average, but really good volume here on both of these markets. Daily change percentage showing down, and that is what we're seeing on both of these assets so far on this session. All right, guys, so that is that. Let's get this thing out of here. On the pivot chart here, left-hand side, you can see crude below the S3, kind of similar to where we were yesterday. So, 57.10s, really the line in the sand. Don't see us pressing below there. We are kind of holding this level as resistance. However, so if we can get back up above that S3 at the 58.40s, I could see us pressing back up around those S2s and back into that 60 region on a pit fade. That's what we saw yesterday, kind of looking the same today. So downside, I think the downside is kind of capped at this point. Upside is more likely, at least for a buy stop release before continuing lower. Just looking at the pivot chart, 60 looks like a good level. And is that 60? Yeah, 60, 59.70s look like a good level above that 60s. Your VWAP, Globex VWAP comes in here around the 59.30s. So that's also something to watch out for. So crude, not saying that it's bullish above S3, but you're likely to get buy stops released above S3. So watch for that. If the buyers can come back in, press this thing above those 58.40s, we can look for a quick rotation up into those 59.60s, 59.70s around your S2. Alternatively, we'll see a spill down into S4 that kind of consolidates and then whips back up. So that's what we've got on crude. S&P 500, this is your chart on over here. And yesterday's session kind of hung around the pivot and the S1. I mentioned 28.70s were your line in the sand there for the bears to press this thing lower, and we saw the bears step in overnight. Like I mentioned, we came in to the New York cash open sitting right around S3, right around that level here in the 28 quarters. And we saw a bit of a rotation up into your S2 before we broke below that, rotated up to S3 as resistance and pressing back into S4 at the moment. So SPOOs and crude kind of in a similar situation. Thinking the short train is a little bit full. The retail bus looks to be quite full here, and I'm thinking that S4 kind of holds here on the SPOOs, 28.10s. We might reach down into S5. I know that sounds crazy to say, but 2800 is a big level of inventory. We see some big bids sitting up there on the chart right there. So these guys have been here really since around 10 a.m. and they've maintained those bids the whole time. And you're seeing right above price action here, right around 28.10s. These bids started to step in around 10.15, and they've been on the sitting on the order book since then. So watching for that move. If we can get a press down into those 28.10s, rotate back up and then press up higher, we might see a little bit of a buy stop release back up into that VWAP sitting around the 28.25s now. So that's kind of what we got as it relates to the pivot charts. Crude oil as well, you can see we've had a big down day. Right now we're kind of sat between those 57.90s and those 58.40s, kind of just holding around. I could see us trying to make another break of that 58, trapping some new sellers in there, and then we get our buy stop release up to the 58.40s, potentially up to those 58.80s, and maybe even up into that Globex VWAP 59.30 for the pit close. That's what we've got on the crude market. On the SPOOs, we are seeing our open came in at the 28.30s, and we mentioned, this thing doesn't really look like it's got too much juice left to the downside. And in the room, we were kind of calling this 28.16 level, 28.18. We saw that, every time it kind of came in here, sellers stepped in. We had a previous break of the lows, but each break of those lows resulted in a rotation up, and those sellers were kind of getting stuck. All that it took here was a break of those 16s, get those shorts down in to cause that buy stop. And we were on top of this in the room, called that rotation back up, and we were saying buy stop potential is around that VWAP. Look at where it hit, just to the tick. Zoom in on that for you guys right there. There's the wick. Came right up into that zone, and we've sold off from there. Now we are starting to form bearish market structure again. So that's kind of what we were looking for. Retail bus was full with shorts near the open. Get that rotation up, get those buy stops released, get those shorts covering their positions, and get some breakout traders long above that overnight low in the 25 quarter. All of that is fuel to the fire for the institutions to step and press this thing back lower. So now we are seeing rotations back in the direction of the trend. What is your next level of potential resistance? Well, right up in the 16s here, seeing it's kind of been forming almost a trend channel, if you will, that's kind of been holding at the moment. So looking for a press back up into that zone, 28.16s. That will be your first level of potential resistance. Back above here, we could see a move into those 28.25s again for another buy stop release, but ultimately looking for that to be a line in the sand. 28.25s, if we get up there, looking for the sellers to press it back down. If we do get back below these 28.10s, I don't really see that happening. But if we do get back below that, your next level is that 2800, and that's where I think the downside will be capped. At least for the cash session, I can see us pressing down in there, rotating up into a Globex, and then smashing this thing back down during London. So that's what we've got on the session today. Don't have the TRADEPRO Performance Index just quite up yet. Give me 1 second to throw that up there for you guys. And again, I apologize for the state of this update. I am holding my phone up and my shoulders are getting pretty sore. So let me get to the drive here and pull this sucker up. It's a good shoulder workout when YouTube does not play along. All right, there we are. And let's drag on over to our TRADEPRO Performance Index. So that's what we're seeing here at the moment. What you guys will notice, let me get my finger out of the camera. This is very difficult to balance looking at 3-4 screens and this mouse. All right, there she is. So there's our day, May 23rd, 64% of the room is green. 50 were up, 14 were flat, 36 were down on the session. Overall trend continues to be green as May rolls on. Are looking for a little bit, what do we have left? 5, 2, 4, just over a week of trading left in May, and we're looking for the team to continue on with this upswing. TRADEPRO Performance Index is making higher lows and higher highs as the months continue on, and as newer members are starting to go through the course, starting to apply themselves live, we're seeing these results continue to be green. So very, very proud of the community, very proud of what you guys are achieving. We're seeing daily milestones in our Discord chat room. And it's very encouraging to see, and that makes us want to provide you guys with more value when we see you guys succeeding the way you have been. So thank you again for putting in the work, showing up, putting in the screen time, and really, really applying the knowledge that you guys are learning. It's something that's that we're very grateful to see when you guys are doing better, because when you guys win, we win as well. That's how the business was designed, and that is how it works on our end here. If you guys don't win, we're not going to be winning. So let's keep this up. And until tomorrow, guys, if you will be trading into the remainder of the session, let's remain patient, remain diligent, and remain disciplined. I'll switch this guy back over to myself here, pop it out. And that is basically going to be a wrap for today's midday update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had to improvise a little bit. But sometimes that's what it is with technology, especially as YouTube and those big platforms are starting to change the way that their platforms work. So that's what I've got for you guys for today. Until tomorrow, hopefully we'll have the YouTube fix and I'll be back on desktop because my shoulder is burning right now. Until then, good luck and good trading. Take care, guys. Ciao.